I have to be quick. Whatever you're doing right now, stop. Go to your children right now. Kiss them. Hold them for as long as you can. That's all there is. Right now.
Hello everybody, welcome back. Unversed podcast. Danny here. Today I'm going to be talking about the Cloverfield paradox, formerly known as the God particle, right? That was its working name until they wanted to reveal it, just like they did with 10 Cloverfield Lane. I forgot the original name that it was, but yeah, basically that's what they're doing. And just out of nowhere, like, yeah, I heard that it was going to drop on Netflix, right? And then all of a sudden, hey, yeah, boom, it's on Netflix tonight, right after the Super Bowl. So it's like, oh, okay, let's check it out. So I feel like for this review, because I don't think we're going to do a spoiler review, right, a second review for this movie. I'm going to get into some spoiler stuff in here, but let me make it spoiler free real quick, just so you guys can have a feel. This movie is interesting. It's definitely has similar tropes to any type of movie that is what it is. You know, you get vibes from Alien and all that. The characters I thought were pretty good most of the time. There's a couple characters where I'm just like, I don't understand why these characters are portrayed the way they are. There's a comedic character who I think he tries to do the Guardians thing, right? Where it's like, oh my gosh, something serious just happened, and then boom, right immediately after with a joke. Except the jokes don't land. I mean, they didn't land on Guardians either, but they don't really land for me. It's like, oh, I see what you did there, but I'm not buying it, sir. And then there's another character who is just so... It kind of pulls me away from the movie because she's so emotionally, like, sporadic, right? Like, just the way her emotions are in the movie. And I'm thinking, there's no way you would be up here in space with these kind of emotions, right? Like, there's just no way. You have to be calm, collected, focused. You know, you can't have any distractions, and you're just so all over the place in this movie. You know, and that's not most of the time. The parts that are, it's just like, wow, that's thrown me off. But majority of the movie, I felt like she was fine. And good cast. I mean, I thought they did a pretty good job for what they were given. And yeah, so if you've seen Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane, and then you come into Cloverfield Paradox, you know, you try to watch this movie and think, let's see where this goes. And while the movie's happening, it's definitely doing something, and it's just not fully executed to how they envisioned it, I'm assuming. There's better ways you could do this, for sure. But yeah, they have something going on here. And I think that's pretty much all I have to say. Would I recommend it? I mean, I did have a good time for most of the movie. And then, like, towards, like, the very end of the third act, like, stuff started happening and, like, really intense scenes with this new character that came out of nowhere and, you know, all this tension build up. And I'm thinking, yeah, this is, I mean, it's not really interesting. It's, like, predictable is the thing, right? This movie was predictable for majority of it. I mean, you had a shot of a character's face, just her face, for like a long time on screen, and you think, gee, I wonder what's gonna happen. You know, there's no surprises. And sure, there's some, they don't really explain a whole lot in this movie, right? There's still questions left to be answered. And I doubt in the next movie they are going to really answer this, right? So it's kind of just like, well, here's some questions, but that's it. So I mean, it's an all right movie. It definitely could have been better, and we'll just see where it goes in the fourth one, if it even connects. Well, who knows? But that's pretty much all I have to say for the spoiler-free stuff. Now, gotta get into some spoiler-heavy. So if you haven't seen the movie, and if you want to see the movie, just go check it out, come back, and we'll see where it goes from here. So, remember, spoilers from this point forward. This movie tries to connect Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane together. Now, the main premise of this movie is, okay, we need to create energy so that way the energy crisis on Earth isn't as chaotic as it is, right? It's like there's wars are almost going to happen because everybody's running out of fuel, out of energy. And the synopsis says 10 years after Cloverfield Lane, right? I think it was in a trailer or something. So already you're thinking, okay, so this is after the events of Cloverfield. Let's see where this goes, you know? And it's just like, okay, here's a space station, and during the opening credits, it's showing all the flashes, you know, keeping us up to date of what's been happening up until the movie starts. And they've been up there for 2 years in space, testing this out, clashing Higgs bosons together, right? Trying to create endless energy. And right off the bat, these characters are so high tension, right? Like we just see them snapping already at each other after 2 years because they only have enough fuel to fire the machine. What was it? 3 times. And they get it working. And then all of a sudden, boom, something blows up. And it's like, oh, what just happened? Wait a minute, guys. Trying to find the Earth, but it's not here. And so they're stranded in space. And it's just, it was interesting right here. Right, it's just like, okay, they're isolated, they have to fix everything, let's see where this goes. They have to do repairs and whatnot. And then they hear shrieking in the hallways. And right here, I'm thinking, oh, they're hearing shriekings. I wonder what this is. I was like, man, feels like it's going to be an Alien ripoff. You know, that's the first thing I was thinking. I'm like, man, they're going to see this alien, someone's going to die right now. Especially because there was a scene where they all got together, and what was her name? Tao, I believe, the Chinese actress. She put her ear to the wall to where the sound was coming from, and I for sure thought something's gonna stab her in the head. And no, instead, they open the thing. Boom! Here's this character. So here's this lady. This lady is stuck in the wall, and I was like, wow! This is crazy. Like, who is this person? Why is she here? And the fact that it's like she teleported, or they teleported where she was. Right? And that's why she's stuck in the ship. Like literally in the ship. You got poles and wires sticking out of her. And then she said essentially the main character's name, Hamilton, right? This girl who has a backstory of just like, oh my goodness, you know, both my kids died because I wanted energy so that way they could read at night. And she's the one that's emotionally unstable. You know, she's talking to her husband earlier in the movie about how, you know, we're trying to figure it out. We're running out of tests. We have to get this down. And then the connection cuts after he was going to ask something. And then she just starts crying, you know, immediately. And I'm thinking, what? I mean, is that the right response to have for this kind of character, right? Because they're in space. They have a job to do. How is she so emotionally unstable that she can't handle one connection cut? You know, I mean, sure, listening about all the crazy stuff that's happening on Earth, about how these wars are almost real. But yeah, man, I don't see it. You know, I don't really see how one of these characters can really just snap right into just bursting of tears because of that scene. That's my main problem with her, is that, like, she's not consistent in this movie. When she's not bursting into tears, she's fine the whole movie, but in those scenes, I'm just like, this, you're not making sense, lady, kind of thing, right? And so while they're trying to figure out what's going on, we get this weird stuff happening. I think one of the Russian guy, right? 'Cause they're all from different countries. Like, something's wrong with his face, and it's like, okay, what's going on? Did he hit his face or anything? And he's checking the mirror, and a nice little surprise. I don't know if it was supposed to be like a jump scare or anything, but he's looking in the mirror, and his eye just turns to the side. He's like, what? Oh no, what? And he tries to put it back, and then he sees something in his head moving. And at first I thought, oh, are those the worms that went missing? Right, because earlier somebody said, hey, the worms are gone. I was like, oh god, he's got the worms in his body. This is going to be like little nasty if he's going to try to take it out, right? And then he starts talking to himself. And the movie never explains who he was talking to. Was he just talking to himself? Was he, just talking to someone? The best theory I have is he merged, right? He merged with his other self. Because later on we find out that they are not in their universe anymore. So maybe that's the case. He merged with himself, and this is what's going on. Doesn't explain how the gyro compass that they need to find Earth was inside of him, or how the worms went in there, and all that stuff, So, I don't know. In this movie, it just starts to get a little more confusing here and there, and we're getting scenes with Hamilton's husband a lot. Like, we got a lot of scenes with him waking up to explosions, and it's just like, oh god, what was that? Who knows? That was right when they vanished, and he gets down, sees this destroyed building when he's on his way to the hospital, right? And he steps out, and what does he see? He sees this giant figure moving, right? And I'm thinking, oh, is that the Cloverfield monster from the first movie? And it's like, oh god, so this is the connecting piece, I'm thinking, right? This is where Cloverfield starts because of what they did, right? But then I have to think back, I'm like, well, hold on. Could it really be because they have modern day smartphones, and the technology that they're using in the space station is like way too advanced, magnetic putty or whatever? Like, there's a bunch of crazy stuff happening with the tech that they're using. So I'm like, well, this can't be right then, unless they're rebooting Cloverfield itself. And he finds this little girl, saves her, trying to find her parents, and he gets a text that's saying the hospital gets destroyed, right? And it's like, oh, snap, okay. So he messages a friend, hey, are you still out of town? And he says, he's like, yeah, can you believe this stuff's happening? Like, crazy shit, And then he asks him, can I borrow your shelter? I didn't really think of anything. I didn't think anything of it at the time until they actually went there. He closed the door, and then I was like, oh, dude, no way. Turns the lights on. Is this not the set from 10 Cloverfield Lane? Is this not John Goodman's bunker? And then it hit me. I was like, holy shit, they pulled a fast one on me. They made me think that what we're watching is the main universe, right? And then it clicks. I was like, oh, there is no way this is a different universe that the main characters are from, right? This is like, because at first I was thinking, okay, they went to some weird universe or whatever. Now I'm thinking, oh, this is the different universe, and they teleported to the main universe where Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane happened, right? Because in the Paradox universe, right, I guess they never really got hit with Cloverfield with the first movie. That never happened there. And you know, we have talks from this new character Jensen from, for now, I would just say the main universe, and she's explaining things, how like it's so different. Their ship or their space station blew up. There's wars going on. It's just a different world from what they know. So their solution is, okay, the only way to fix any of this is if we activate it again, get it working, and get us back home. Now, here's my problem though, is the movie, for some reason or another, has to kill off everybody in the space station. Like, I don't understand why this trope needs to be in the movie. You know, it's like, oh, they're all dying one by one. First it was the Russian guy. He's dead because he built, he hacked the 3D printer and built a gun. And eventually he just died from having a seizure, and then like all the worms bursting out of him, and the gyro thing too. So he dies. And I was like, okay, he's dead. You know, we get a first sense of loss. Like, holy shit, can't believe this just happened. We have to get out of here. And then one of the most confusing scenes, it's like trying to do a Final Destination thing. Like, what is this movie even trying to do? You know, so you got the Irish guy fixing cracks and leaks and pipes and whatnot. And he puts his hand on the wall and it gets pushed in. So he thinks, oh damn, I just broke this wall. He's stuck. And it's sucking him in. It's like, what? Like, what's happening here, you know? They pull him out, his arm's gone. Like, it looks like it's cut, right? Because there's no skin over the nub. But it's like, well, what happened, you know? And then we see his arm crawling around, and it wrote, you know, check for Volg or whatever the Russian's name was, check his body. And that's where they found the gyro compass. But there's a lot of, like, it doesn't make, the only thing I could think of is this, right? It's just like, oh, because they went to another universe, you know, a bunch of quantum stuff is happening, a bunch of weird anomalies is going on. That's why this ship just ate his arm. That's why the ship is gonna kill Tao later on down the movie. And I'm thinking, but this still doesn't make sense, because it's just like, we have to go because this universe is literally killing us, right? They're telling us that by them staying in the wrong universe, they're gonna die. One way or another, the universe is gonna kill them. But we didn't see enough of that. We only had 2 scenes, maybe 3 scenes of it, you know, and I just don't buy it, because not a lot of weird stuff happened, only when characters were by themselves. We never saw weird shit. I mean, sure, we saw the football table, the soccer table start spinning, and that's just how they show it. And that to me is just poor execution of how they want to portray what's happening. You know, I get it. It's just like, oh, they have to leave. They don't belong here, right? That's the premise that the leader has given us. And it's just, it didn't really show enough of that. So that's unfortunate. You know, and that's another thing. There's a lot of questions here. They don't get answered. And yeah, so they're getting ready to go. And Hamilton again just doesn't make sense, because she's just like, I'm going to stay because I want to see my family. But that's not your family, you know? Like, I like these little topics that are bringing in about, you know, but with her, I don't know. I wasn't really feeling her character much, some of the times. Majority of the time, I'm like, yeah, she's fine. She's just a character. And so, movie ends, and, we've gotten what? I want to say 4 or 5 scenes with the husband, with Hamilton's husband. And out of the back half of the scenes, he's been in the bunker the whole time, right? I mean, sure, maybe he's looking at something like news or whatever, but apparently there's monsters roaming around the earth, right? And when it comes down to only 2 people left, Hamilton and Schmidt, the German engineer, aka Baron Zemo from Civil War, right? And so they get sent down back to Earth through a shuttle because they finally made it back home. And right when they pass the clouds, emerging from the clouds is a Cloverfield monster, right? I think they changed the design a little bit, but it's the same one from the first Cloverfield. And it's like, wow. But as Chris Stuckman pointed out in his review I saw earlier, the Cloverfield monster was not that big. So there's he was talking about a theory of how maybe that this is a fully fledged Cloverfield monster. And it's like, man, like what is going on at the end of what are we trying to say at the end of Cloverfield Paradox? Because to me, Cloverfield Paradox is not the same universe as the last two movies. It just can't be. Sure, you could say, 10 years later, but why is all this happening right now? Kind of thing, This is a lot. I mean, there's a theory of like, the Hamilton and Schmidt's escape pod. You see that in Cloverfield when it lands in the water in the beach. And it's like, okay, but why is the Cloverfield monster already awake, right? The whole premise of Cloverfield was the monster was deep underwater. Something happened, right? The satellite or whatever crashed down in the water. That's what woke it up. Excuse me. And yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I like the approach that Paradox has, but I feel like they didn't look at this carefully enough because now everything's mixed around, right? Because, if the universe they went to in this movie is the main universe, and if Cloverfield 4 is a continuation of Paradox, why would I care about Paradox if it's not if it's just like, this is a different universe, And I just don't think I would care for it. I mean, I'd probably check it out, but I probably wouldn't be that interested in it, right? Because I'm like, well, I want to see what they do in the other universe, right? In Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane universe. Who cares about Paradox universe? Interesting concept of how like the energy stuff and they're in the future and all that, but that isn't what I wanted it to focus on. I thought, because they were saying like this is going to connect the last two movies, and back in my head I'm thinking I didn't really want them to connect. I don't want a movie made just to connect them, right? To me, that is not a good approach because that's just a waste of a movie. There's going to be way too much exposition, and they're going to try to piece things together that really aren't going to try to make sense, just like they did in this movie. And I like how it's closed off and it's just its own thing, right? I think the Cloverfield franchise is interesting like that, where it's like, these are stories happening in the same universe that will eventually connect in some movie, but it's going to happen naturally as these movies progress, right? But yeah, I mean, Cloverfield Paradox, interesting stuff going on. Definitely have your theories running about for sure. And that's it. I mean, predictable stuff, bad humor timing, like I said in the beginning, and there was just confusing scenes like this new girl Jensen from the universe they went to all of a sudden started killing people, or she stole the gun and was ready, and I was like, oh, she's gonna go kill Schmidt right now. Like, that's what she wants to do because he hates him so much, because in her universe he sabotaged their space station. And no, instead she wants to kill everybody and keep it for herself. And I was like, oh, okay, it makes sense, but I was just getting confused about character actions at the end. Like, I felt the third act was a little sloppy. But I think, guys, that is all I have to say for right now for the Cloverfield Paradox. Maybe do another episode when we have more people. Hopefully, maybe, we'll see. Have a discussion, maybe on just a normal podcast episode. But yeah, that is a lot of crazy stuff with Cloverfield Paradox. And it's a short movie too. I mean, I don't know what else you can add, more to add, but really short. And it's just, I just think it's dumb that like they have to kill off characters with the ship. It makes no sense to me. It's like, okay, like why? What's the point? you know. But yeah, guys, that's all I have to say for right now. Thank you for listening. And you know what? I was really hoping to see John Goodman show up in this movie, right? Like, that would have been mind blowing, because they're in Hamilton's husband with this girl. They're in his bunker, right? As far as I'm concerned, this is John Goodman's bunker, just a different universe. It would have been great if he showed up, you know? And then they like have a good scene with each other, you know, and he's just going on riffs of just how he was in 10 Cloverfield Lane. That would have been amazing. I wish we got that, but fortunately, no cameo. So that is the last thing I have to say. And of course, you can always follow us on Unversed Podcast anywhere on social media. Keep you updated. We'll definitely have a lot of episodes coming in this month, hopefully. And you can email us at unversedpodcast@gmail.com if you have any questions, comments, concerns. Did you watch the Cloverfield Paradox? Did you like it? What did you think? How do you think it compares to the other Cloverfield movies? Now, everyone's saying this is the weakest one, and to that I say yes, but I mean, how can you say it's the weakest one when 10 Cloverfield Lane is just such a strong movie on its own, right? And then Cloverfield, I really enjoyed. So it's 10 Cloverfield Lane, Cloverfield, and then you just have to put Cloverfield Paradox at the bottom because it's not better than the first one. And the fact that it is also very confusing really hurts it too. So thanks, guys, for listening. And as always, we will talk to you next time.